It's not often a TV show can grip a nation quite like this. Whether it be the radio, your neighbour or Hermione Granger, everyone's talking about Happy Valley. And it was actually word of mouth which convinced me to watch the show, so in the last couple of weeks I've binged it, and now we've got to this final episode. And I know for some of you, you'll have watched the show right from the start 9 years ago and gone all the way through the 3 series, so this would have been a long wait for you. So did the finale live up to expectations? I think it did in many ways, but there were some issues as well. The episode begins and we find Catherine waking up at Alison's place, and she finds some diazepam, and Alison explains to her that that's her probation officer's diazepam and she doesn't know where she gets it from. Next we see Ivan and Mattia get arrested as the police storm their house just a few hours before Ivan was supposed to get married. So yeah, it's been quite a week for Ivan, with him being peed on, missing his wedding and also getting arrested.
What a shit week!
Sticking with the secondary storyline as we jump forward to the police questioning of Rob Hepworth, aka Evil Juan Mata, as he's getting questioned about fingerprints, and he's still trying to get across to them that he didn't kill Joanna. In the following scene, the pharmacist files or learns from his colleague that Ivan and Mattia have been arrested, and so he thinks he might be off the hook. But we see towards the end of the episode that Catherine cracks one more case before she retires, as she alerts the superintendent that Alison told her that her probation officer gets the diazepam from a pharmacist only 100 meters away from Joanna's house, thus they're bringing in Faisal Bhatti into the spotlight. In terms of Rob Hepworth, Shepard tells Catherine that they found indecent images on his phone of a kid he was blackmailing at school. Can't say I'm surprised, to be honest. One of the questions which was up in the air still was, why was his daughter wearing the coat all the time? That could be linked there, unfortunately, but it might just be there because she wanted to be protected when he was around. Quite rightly, this final episode was dominated by Catherine and Tommy, but with this second storyline, it didn't really feel very satisfying as we got to the conclusion, because it was very convenient, Catherine heard from someone who heard from someone else that the diazepam was from this pharmacist, and then with Rob, he is a pedo from this one episode really. There haven't really been that much build up towards that. And with that makes me think that maybe they could have used an extra episode or made this last episode longer, but at the same time this secondary storyline doesn't really intertwine very well with the main storyline like we've seen in the past 2 seasons, where it does feel more of a natural fit together. This one, is connected, but it just feels more of a branch. And so I understand why I'd want to conclude it in a quick manner, but it doesn't really give you much of a payoff. So back to the main storyline, and Ryan goes in to get questioned about Tommy, and he reveals that he spoke to him on the games console the night before, and with that I still don't understand how Tommy got his username, his gamer tag, because there were some rumours that Neil could be his dad and maybe gave Tommy the gamer tag that way. Obviously Neil was actually a very nice guy, so sorry to Neil for all those rumours about him, but yeah, how did he actually know that? So I don't know if that was ever explained. If it was, let me know down in the comments. Over to Tommy now, and he's getting picked up by Darius's brother, but he feels like there's something fishy going on as he sees a fuel canister in the back seat, so he goes back into the old man's house to grab a knife, and he stabs the guy in the back seat with him, slits the guy's throat in front of him, and him and Darius's brother have a fight in the field, which he eventually wins, but he's left pretty badly wounded. Catherine at this time is at Becky's grave, and she hears from the spirit of Becky, "Go home, mum." And with Catherine, she's had these visions of Becky all the way through the show. She then goes back to the house to look at photo albums of Becky as well as Ryan. She falls asleep while doing so, but then gets woken up by Ryan's phone call where he's asking her to pick him up, and she leaves the house just at the right moment as Tommy is entering the kitchen. And with Tommy going to the house, I thought, why are you going there, Tommy? That's one of the key locations they're looking for you. But then obviously with his injuries and with him bringing the canister with him as well, he knows that his time is nearly up. As we then see him looking through those same photo albums which Catherine was looking at, as well as looking at Ryan's room. Catherine and Ryan talk at the station, and Ryan tells Catherine about what Anne told him the night before when she was drunk, and also explains to Catherine that Claire's always been there, so you should put your differences aside and get past this. As Catherine arrives at Neverson, she goes into the kitchen to speak with Claire, and she talks about her realisation that Ryan wasn't going against her, but instead wanting to see Tommy in his own eyes and see his dad from his own point of view, and that Ryan's she shouldn't have worried that Ryan was going to turn into him, because he is a normal lad, and she should have more trust in her upbringing of her grandson. Forget Winnie the Witch, more like Winnie the Snitch, as she calls Catherine to tell her about someone breaking into the house. And then we get easily the most amazing scene of the episode, and maybe the whole series, with the confrontation between Catherine and Tommy Lee Royce, the final confrontation. And with these two, it's like the Batman and the Joker. They was going back and forth, and I could have watched it for an hour long if they went for that long. While they're talking, Tommy does reveal to Catherine that Darius Knezevich did murder Gary Gogoski 8 years ago, so before he goes he does rat him out. The monster that is Tommy did show some humanity before he set himself on fire. Catherine put him out with one of Claire's crochet blankets, and then we find out he was in a coma, but then via a text at the end of the episode we find out that he did die. Before we get to that though, we do have a lovely scene between the two sisters, and one of the great lines from Catherine.
I won, obviously. I think I might have singed one of your crochet blankets.
And then back to that final scene when she learns of Tommy's death, she says everything she needs to say with her face there. She walks off towards the church, and we assume heading to the Himalayas. I did think, and I think many others did as well, that that final shot might have been her looking out towards the Himalayas, but that weren't to be. But I think this ending was still a poignant one, and one which was very satisfying. Like I said, there's just certain things where I feel like the overall series could have maybe used a bit more time here and there, but for what we got in terms of the Catherine and Tommy, which is the main thing here, I thought it was great. Having watched these 3 series in quick succession, I gotta say the first series was by far the best one for me. It was so intense, I just couldn't stop watching it. You know, every episode I was like, oh, they gave me a little bit of a hint here, but I need to find out more. I need to find out what does happen with this whole kidnapping. The characters, Kevin was very good in that as well, Nevis and Gallagher as well, and people are dropping like flies. I mean, bloody Lewis Whippy dying, you know, Kirsten, that very brutal death, one which definitely sticks in the memory. And yeah, it had a really good ending to that season as well, where it could have just been that one series and they didn't have to necessarily do a second and a third series. But with that one, it's one where I think if someone picks up the show now, like I just done recently, they'll just be so into it that they'll have to watch all 3 series back to back. Season 2 had that tough task of following that first season, but I thought it was still to a very good standard. I really enjoyed the character of Lee in that one because he was a lot like the Kevin character in the first season, the character who is always one step away from being caught, a bit like Faisal in this third season as well. And I think with him, he was very well acted as well, just like the whole cast. I think what's so great about Happy Valley is that they get some great cast members who just act their absolute asses off. I mean, bloody Catherine with Sarah Lancashire, she's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best performances I think I've ever seen in terms of a TV show. She is so good. And a lot of that is down to Sally Wainwright, who's done a tremendous job with Happy Valley and its writing. I mean, the dialogue just feels so natural. Like a lot of the scenes, you feel like you're in the room with them.
He called him a little shit stain. You see, this is the thing. I never know when to tell you stuff and when not to. He told me when you were busy in kitchen. I know, bastard.
Something else I did appreciate is some of the lines within the script. You know, they really did a great job of giving you that comedy relief.
Do you take milk and
No. Yeah, no, thank you. And yeah, go on, sugar. 2 sugars. 1 sugar. Thank you.
Someone I haven't mentioned yet is James Norton, who plays Tommy Lee Royce, and I think, you know, he's being tipped to be James Bond at the moment. And I think with what I've seen from him, I would not be against that at all. I think he's shown himself to be a very good actor, and I could definitely see him in that tuxedo. But overall, with Happy Valley, it's crime drama at its best. It's superbly written, it's very well cast with some fantastic performances and a powerhouse performance from Sarah Lancashire, who really helps make this show one of the best from the last decade. But what were your thoughts on this gripping Yorkshire drama? Let me know your thoughts on the finale as well as the show overall in the comments below. And if you're looking for something very different to watch, on screen is our review for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.